start with a prayer. Om Samasta Jana Kalyane Niratam Karunamayam Namami Chinmayam Devam Sadgurum Brahma Vidvaram Vasudeva Sutam Devam Kamsa Chanura Mardhanam Devaki Paramanandam Krishnam Vande Jagadgurum Tvameva Mata Cha Pita Tvameva Tvameva Bandhuscha Sakha Tvameva Tvameva Vidya Dravidam Tvameva Tvameva Sarvam Amadeva Deva Tvameva Sarvam Deva Deva. Hari Om. So in response to the questions of the student, so ko nama bandhaha katamesha agataha katam pratisthasya katam vimokshaha. So what is the nature of the bondage? How did it came? How did it get firmly established? And how do we get liberated from the bondage? These are related to the four aspects of the bondage. And kosa avanatma paramatma ka atma. So what is anatma? What is atma? And tayor vivekaha. How do we differentiate these two? These are the three questions related to atma, anatma and their differentiation. So the teacher first addressed a little bit and he will come back again. What is liberation? How do we get liberated? So essentially, what is liberated? In a general sense, it says Atma, Brahma, Aichya and Bodha. What is required is a teaching that shows that I am is totality. Self that I am is the total universe, the Brahman. So I am Brahman, that means I am infinite. So I don't become infinite because nothing can become infinite. Infinite is infinite. And I am infinite is only a knowledge. And if I am already infinite and I think I am limited, then there is a problem or confusion in my understanding. That understanding or misunderstanding about myself is in the mind. So mind has to get re-educated. Now it's not that Brahman has to be realized, it's not that Atma has to be realized. Atma doesn't have ajnana, Brahman doesn't have ajnana. So who is having ajnana? These are the fundamental question raised against the Visishtadvaita, against by Visishtadvaita, against Advaita. But here it's very clear that Atma doesn't have ajnana, so Atma doesn't have to realize. Brahman doesn't have ajnana, Brahman doesn't have to realize. In fact, Atma and Brahman are one and the same. So then who has the ignorance? The ignorance is the one who doesn't know that he is Brahman. And that is essentially a local mind thinking that that I am only limited entity, and that notions are in the mind. Therefore mind has to be educated, knowledge has to occur by the mind, for the mind and by the mind. It's not the destruction of the mind. When it says in the Upadesasara, Bhagavan Ramana says this is the direct part, this is Marga Arjavat, it is direct. Says Manasam tu kim margane krute naiva manasam marga arjavat. Says what is this mind? Manasam tu kim. What is exactly is the mind has to be inquired. Manasam tu kim margane krute. This is direct path, and if you try to inquire, but for the mind to inquire, what is the mind? Who is going to inquire? One has to be very careful. It says people quote this and says therefore we don't need a mind. But who is saying it? Manasam tu kim margane krute. Margana means vicharane krute. By inquiring into what is this mind. Who is going to inquire? Somebody else? It is the mind only. So mind is required to inquire who is the mind. So it is like a thief asking who is a thief. So one has to be very careful here. So naiva manasam, there is no mind. So what exactly? Not that mind doesn't disappear because it has to inquire. So inquiring mind has to be there. So what disappears is the wrong notional mind. A notional mind gets disappeared. A confused mind gets disappeared. What gets is the mind with the knowledge that I am what I am because of something. The light of illumination is not from me but for the all-pervading consciousness. We have to understand this very clearly. Otherwise people say, oh, we do have to go beyond the mind. How do you go beyond the mind? With the mind only. How do you go beyond the mind with the mind? So these are all confusing concepts unless one has a crystal clear understanding of even Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi's teaching has to be understood properly. So therefore, this is what is interesting. In fact, Bhagavan Maharshi emphasizes Viveka Chudamani also as one of the texts, and the Bhagavad Gita, he has condensed some of the important slokas of Bhagavad Gita also. So it's not that one should not study, himself has studied also those. So it's also an important, so people claim that Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi didn't have a teacher, therefore I don't need a teacher. Everyone needs a teacher, that is the rule. But there can be exceptions to the rule, but you don't make exceptions as a rule itself. It says, I don't need a teacher if I am prepared like Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, but in this case, the preparation must have been done in the past life. How do you know? Because Bhagavan Ramana, the Krishna gives you, in response to the Arjuna's question, what happens to a person who dies with the knowledge but at the same time he has not gained. He has studied the Vedanta but he has not assimilated, has not realized. What happens to him? Then Krishna says, nothing will be wasted here. Everything that you do towards the path will always be beneficial, and Krishna assures that he will be born in a conducive environment where all that background in the past will take him rapidly into the further moksha. And that's what we see examples of Mahatmas when they suddenly get something. And Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi, because of some death inside the family, he wanted to experience the death, and he found out that he is eternally alive because he can see the body as though it is dead. This is not just a statement, but it is an intense experience of that, and he loved it so much that he wanted to do with sitting himself the same state of experience. All that those who have studied Bhagavan Ramana Maharshi's the life history can tell, but don't claim that I don't need it. If you don't need it, if you can understand by yourself, thank you sir, you can study that way. But most of us who have a strong understanding or strong misunderstanding, then they need a scriptural teaching to remove that, and that knowledge removes the ignorance as well as the misunderstanding, and therefore together they will get lost. That's why Shankara says, Ajnana kalusham jivam jnanabhyasaddi nirmalam. This Ajnana kalusham jivam, it is impurified, it is muddled by confusion due to the ignorance. When I am ignorant, all other things will come into picture, because I take myself what I am not as I am and operate with that from birth to death and life after life, where I take myself, I am the body, I am the mind, and I am the intellect. Who is that I am? I am pure Satchidananda Swarupam, taking myself. How do I take? We will go into more details, but at least we should understand that studying the scriptures, approaching a teacher is required for many of us. And in the teaching, once is stated that this is what is moksha. How do I get liberated? By understanding that Brahma Atma Aikya Bodhena, by having a knowledge of the identity of Atma and Brahman. The self that I am is the total. That is essentially Tattvamasi statement. Tat Tvam Asi. You are that. That's what this you means. Tvam, that means who am I? Inquiry will give you Tvam Padartham. Tvam Padartham means who am I inquiring? Who am I means what I am not, I had to reject it. By rejecting, I am arriving at myself. By rejecting, I am not this, neti neti. Not this, because this is an object, I am a subject. I am subject, cannot be object. And therefore, any object I cannot be. So I reject the whole world, because whole world is object. I reject the body, because body is also an object of my knowledge. I reject the mind, because the mind is also an object of my knowledge. But who is rejecting? It's the mind only. Part of the mind rejecting identification, the mind, I am the mind, has to be rejected. But use the mind for something. So it's just like, this is my car is different from I am the car. I am the car is a wrong notion. I can use the car to go from one place to other place. In the same way, I can use the mind to go to wherever that I want to go to learn. But saying that I am the mind is a problem, and that is due to the wrong understanding. Using the mind, I had to do it, and for that only the preparation is required. Hence, the teacher, after showing that Brahma Atmaikya Bodhera Moksha Siddhati Anyatha, there is no other way one can get liberated. Only way, and the only way is, this is the only, it's not a fanatism, but it's a clear understanding that I am the total, because that's a fact. The facts need not be a belief. It's not a belief system. If I say the light travels at such and such a speed, it's not a belief. Oh, I don't believe it. That's your problem. But this is a fact. Light travels at such and such a speed. There is nothing to believe. It is something to understand and something to use if it is useful. And the same way, I am Brahman if the nature of my reality of the self itself, because self is Satchidanandam, Brahman is Satchidanandam, and there cannot be distinction in Satchidanandam. Therefore, the unity is what essentially what the scriptures is pointing out in the direction to think. And therefore, for that, the mind has to be prepared, because mind is not ready to accept that I am infinite. So nobody will accept, hey, you are infinite. They say, how can you be infinite? I am limited by space and time. I am born in such and such a time. I am going to die at such and such a time. So all my prayers are, I want this, and all that. But essentially, if I am already infinite, I don't need anything, because everything is in me only. That understanding will not come until the mind has to be prepared, until the mind has to give up the wrong notions. So the teacher again emphasizes that not only for the student benefit, these are the purification of the mind is required. And what is required for moksha? If this is a moksha, he says in the sloka 71 of the Viveka Chudamani, says, Mokshasya hetuhu prathamo nigadyate. So first thing we know for gaining this moksha, or gaining this understanding that I am aham brahmasmi, or I am the totality, is vairagyam atyantam anityavastushu anityavatu, that which is anityam. Nityam is eternal, that which is ephemeral, that which is keep continuously changing. For that I should have complete vairagyam. There is no more attachments. Vairagyam is without ragam. That means I am not attached to this. I need this for my happiness. I need that. If it comes, it comes. If it goes, it goes. But I don't depend on it as essential things. So sannyasa is not giving up and running away from the field of action, but sannyasa is not to depend on that for your happiness. That is vairagyam. Therefore, atyantam anityavastushu, that which are not eternal. So everything is only the anityam that we deal with in the transactional world. So therefore, you should not have attachment to it. What is to be done is operate it, whatever that is to be required. Dharma has to be followed, but without any attachment to it. Therefore, the first statement the Acharya says, this is very important as prathamaha. The first thing you need is vairagyam. And tata samadhischa damaha tichiksha nyasaha prasakta kala karmanam brusham. So therefore, afterwards, you need also tadahat. Therefore, in order to do this, shama, dama, titiksha. So all these disciplines, sixfold disciplines we talked about, so shama, dama, uparama, the titiksha and shraddha and samadhanam. All that plus prasakta akila karmanam brusham. So you have to give up this akila karma, so all actions you have to give up. And that's what is the statement in that. So can I give up all the actions? This is essentially nahikachit chanamapi jatu tushasya karma kratu. Krishna says no one can remain without action. Then here it says prasakta akilam karmanam brusham. So I had to give up all akilam means everything. So therefore, which means that I had to understand while actions are going, by giving up the attachment to the results of the action, number one, and further slowly understand that I am not even acting while the acting is going on. Who is acting? Body, mind and intellect are acting, but body, mind, intellect itself are product of the Prakriti itself, and therefore I had to clear understanding of the whole universe, including my body, mind, intellect, are born of Prakriti, and therefore we need to understand how that is. Therefore the teacher slowly introducing what is Anatma. Because I am not born, but Prakriti, all these things are born. Therefore, everything that is born becomes Anityam. And in this Anityam, therefore, all actions are also has to be given up. It is not the actions per se, but it is essentially giving up the understanding that I am a doer. Hence Krishna says, what exactly is sannyasa? Sannyasa means not giving up the activities. Anashrita karma palam karyam karma karotiha sasannyasi cha yogi cha na niragnihi na cha kriyaha na cha akriyaha. The one who doesn't do anything is not real sannyasi. The one who doesn't do agni, that means at that time the karmas are defined, is not really who gives up those things are not sannyasi. This is anashrita karma palam karyam karma karoti. One who does activities but doesn't depend upon the results for his happiness. Anashritam karma palam. Karma means results of the actions. Says karyam karma karoti. He performs all the activities without depending on the results of the action. So that is real sannyasi. That understanding has to come. So that is required in terms of moksha. So moksha is not giving up anything. It's not leaving anything, not running away to Himalayas or somewhere. So those may help, provided I have complete detachment with the world, but those are only helpful things but not necessary. What is necessary is clear understanding that nothing really belongs to me. Whatever that comes, it comes because of prarabdha, and whatever leaves is also because of prarabdha. I don't depend, I welcome what is coming, and I also give send off whatever is going without any attachments to it. And that is essentially, but not doing the action and run away from the field as Arjuna was trying to do, that's not really sannyasa. And that's being emphasized. Therefore, prasakta agilam karmanam. So, give up the all actions means give up the notion that I am a doer in all activities. Activities which are the obligatory activities have to be done, but with the notion that I am really doing. Snanamiva, like just any purification process. Why do I take bath? Because I have to get rid of something there. What I get rid of? All the dirt will go away, and not I am going to gain something. I am pure by myself. So all activities that are come and the way as a part of depending on the roles that I am doing, I do it, but with the mind centered on the higher. That is the real giving up. Therefore, prasakta akilam karmanam, that has to be. But if I have no obligations, then by all means you go to a place where you can concentrate on this study. So, vidva sannyasa, vividisha sannyasa, where if I can spend time in study of the scriptures, where I can concentrate without any other obligations, then if you have that opportunity, if you have that providing things, then by all means go there and study in the ashram or whatever in the Gurukula and learn the scriptures under the guidance of appropriate teacher. Teacher has to be the one who directs the disciple to the scriptures as an authority, not himself as an authority. He may be a great saint, he may be Brahmanishta, but yet we are talking about the scriptural teaching. Therefore, he has to be a Sotriyam, and he has to direct the disciple not to himself as an authority, because the scripture says so. Therefore, it is so. So, the directing the disciple is required in terms of towards the scriptures, and that is the right teacher. And the teacher has to be alive, because the communication is only by the teacher. People say Atma is a teacher. If Atma is a teacher, everybody would have realized by now, because Atma is all the time there. There is never a time Atma is not there. If I can learn from Atma, then already I don't need learning, because I already know. What is required is I need a realized person, the Lord himself is everywhere. We said Lord himself became many, so he himself is Guru Brahma, Guru Vishnu, Guru Deva Maheswara. He himself has come in this form to teach me. With that understanding, if I have, then my mind is purified and I accept the teaching. I can question my understanding or misunderstanding, and all Vedanta is a discussion between the teacher and the taught, where it is called Samvadam, where Sri Krishna Arjuna Samvade. That means Arjuna is allowed to ask the question, but he is asking the question, not questioning the teacher, but questioning his understanding. Am I right? There is a confusion, please clarify me. So that kind of teaching dialogue is allowed in Hinduism, and every Vedantic text is in fact a dialogue between the teacher and the taught, and that is a Samvadam. It's not even a Vadam. Vadam is between two equals, whereas Samvadam is between the higher and the lower, between the teacher and the student. The other two types of discussions are called the Vitandavadam and the Jalpam. And we are not worried here, we are worried about Samvadam, where the teacher and the student dialogue takes place. And this is what the teacher is telling. What you need most predominantly is Vairagyam and preparation of the mind with Samadhi, Shatka Sampatti, the preparations, all that. So how do you know it's mind prepared? If I am able to sit quietly and learn the scriptures, for that at least an hour or so, at least my mind is calm and quiet and able to appreciate the logic as well as the beauty of the scriptures, then I am, at least my mind is enough prepared, and the rest of the preparation will go on with the knowledge itself. Because jnanena, all actions get destroyed also, all karmas also get destroyed. That's what Krishna's assurance is. So therefore, assurance is. Therefore, what is required is emphasized, and now the teacher is going to talk about what is Atma, Anatma. Remember the second line says, Kosavanatma. What is Anatma and what is Atma? And that part is going to be taken up in the next. With that, we'll stop here. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vasishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Harihi Om Sri Gurubhyo Namaha. Harihi Om.